there is 0% confusion in my mind as to whether or not I'm perfect. I'm so imperfect. Now, one of my greatest kind of sources of anxiety or even anger with myself is that I'm a perfectionist. Um, I have a really hard time being okay with being imperfect, and so I have a pretty high standard of myself, of my actions, of what I do, how well I perform, and I think that really links back to my childhood, the way I was raised. My parents were pretty strict, um, but they were just like the most well-meaning parents I could have asked for, because they have really high standards, and they really. But the reason they had really high standard was they wanted the best for us, and that was pretty. It wasn't exactly clear growing up that that's what they wanted. I just thought they were just being really mean, and they didn't really care what they were making me feel, but they later in life I realized that they just wanted the best of me so bad. And they were looking at other people's kids and the problems that other people have in their marriages and in life, making bad decisions, and what they really wanted was to give us the formation and to teach us as best they could to help us avoid some of those mistakes. And I'm really grateful for that in my parents, but at the same time, man, it hurt. It hurt like hell because, especially with my dad, I felt like I could never do enough. I could never be perfect enough, and he would always criticize me, point out things I did wrong, lecture me about this and that and whatever. And I think all of us kids really felt that same way at one point or another. So I think that kind of contributed to where I am today, about like I'm so used to everything I do being highly analyzed and criticized, and getting negative feedback all the time. And I think when I moved away to college, I started taking that role on myself. That I was the one criticizing and analyzing and telling myself I could never be perfect, because my imperfection was always top of mind. Like the successes and stuff, I like the growth I was experiencing was never really um, talked about, or it was never really complimented. And I think that really took a toll on me, feeling like I could never be perfect enough, and that I always have to focus on the imperfections I see in myself to then be more perfect in the future, or whatever the heck. So I could never be good enough for other people, and I could never be good enough for myself. So that's kind of what got instilled in me growing up and then throughout college. Now, I've gone to counseling, and I've talked to a lot of people, and they're like, man, you're really hard on yourself. And I recognize that, but it's kind of hard to break those habits of not feeling like I'm enough. So, one of the most negative and weird things that come about through my perfectionism is that instead of like pushing myself really, really hard to do things and challenge myself to new levels and stuff, the habit that grew on me was that I would avoid doing hard things that I was unsure about. I would I really wanted to stay in like where I was comfortable, and like the activities or areas or sports or subjects that I was most naturally gifted in, because that's where I succeeded the most. And I really needed those successes and the little affirmations here and there to keep me going, to motivate me, to feel like I was worth something. But what scared me was, if I go out of my way to like do something that is challenging, or I'm failing in some activity, like basketball for me, that I was pretty naturally gifted as an athlete. Like I was fast and had good high hand coordination, but basketball, because there was that element of like precision, like my shooting was never really that great. So in like junior high, I said I hate basketball. Like I didn't want to play basketball. Not because I didn't like it. I actually really enjoy basketball, but because I wasn't good at it. And I wanted to avoid and have an excuse why I wasn't going to do that sport because I wasn't good at it and I would fail in it and other people were better at it than me. So this habit was to avoid what was difficult, to just stay in my lane, my comfort zone. And I think growing up more and more, I realized that my comfort zone and those things that I was naturally good at was actually a pretty small proportion of activities. And I started to get more and more scared to go out of my comfort zone because if I go out of that place I'm naturally good at, then the failures are present. And it was kind of like I don't want to be imperfect, I don't want to fail, so I need to stay in something that is more secure. And as I realized that I'm super insecure and not perfect at a lot of things, actually everything, that it's like, oh shoot, well now I have no recourse. I have no recourse at all. And the only option then is to face life head on and be like, you know what, I'm not perfect at it, but I'm gonna do my darndest to perfect myself. So this has been a severe like cross for me to bear, and it's been really present, and it's created a lot of anxiety in my life, made me not do things, avoid things, be super shy. For example, I really struggled talking with girls and being around girls, and like throughout high school and, and into college, because for me it was like I don't all the girls I was really attracted to that were really pretty and they were really smart and things like that. I was scared to talk to those women because I felt like I could never match up with them, and that they would be able to see, oh gosh, this guy is just, he's super imperfect, and I'd never be able to, you know, they would soon find out that I wasn't worthy of love. That's what my mindset was about. But then I told myself, okay, then, but I still want to get married and I still want to have women. So I started thinking to myself, what's most comfortable and what is more secure is if I went to a girl that's really not that ugly. I mean, not that pretty. She's like uh, someone who I'm already naturally better than. Because selfishly, I was thinking, I don't want to seem bad in comparison to these really good girls, but I want to look good, and so I'll compare myself to this other not so attractive girl, or the girl that struggles, or is not as popular. And then it would be as if I'm like being a savior to this girl. And man, when I realized I was actually doing that and thinking that way, I was appalled with myself. I was like, that is like the most cowardly and most selfish thing. Holy cow. Um, so the reason I'm saying all this is like leading me to the realization that if I'm going to be a active contributor to society, I can't just play the safe game and be passive about everything and choose only what's comfortable. That's horrible, and that's gonna just be a suck to society. So the only other option is self-improvement. And, I always knew this was the case. And I'd heard over and over again my whole life, like, be the best version of yourself. Nothing is going to happen unless you, as in me, like, take the responsibility of your life. And so that was a really, I'm still facing that every day. It's like, man, the temptation is to be passive, to avoid conflict, to be a passive observer, to just be a consumer of content and the world. instead of, putting in the hard work to be a contributor and to be active. And even though that is the opportunity and the invitation for myself, I hate it. I hate the idea of going out of my comfort zone. So self-improvement is about identifying the areas I'm not perfect in, which is every area, but like the few that I can grow in, and then putting in some hard work to improve those areas, so that little by little, brick by brick, I'm actually developing myself into a person who can contribute and who can work hard and who can outperform those who never take that responsibility. Um, so I think that is kind of why I've started this YouTube channel, is to kind of document my journey, or whatever steps I'm taking, um, because I do not want to live a life I regret at the end of the day. And the only way to do that is to bite the bullet and do the hard work. And I don't know what that's gonna mean, honestly. I I'm just a guy, and I'm just a guy who's not even that good at talking or about putting his thoughts into reality. I'm just I don't know. I'm just who I am right now, and I can't start where somebody else is. I can only start where I am, and that's what I'm gonna try to do. And I don't know. Maybe in the end, it might be helpful for somebody else to see kind of the process I went through, but we'll see. We'll see.